We're entering the semi-ghost town of Stillwater. Stillwater resides in the Carson Sink. This is where the Carson River flows through. At one time, however, there was no river. Ancient Lake Lahontan filled this valley that you see in this basin. And we're going to be driving in the middle of the sink. And there's still wetlands left behind, and this is what drew pioneers to the area. This became an overland station and Pony Express station stage stop. It was an important stop for mail, for goods, because you had 2 to 3 different types of express stations. One would handle the Pony Express for delivering mail. One would be for supplies for the immigrants who would use this place as a stage stop. Now, this was also because it's such a fertile area and full of lush land. After the Native Americans left this area, because the Native Americans used the Carson Sink for bird hunting and deer gathering. This is all today ranch land. And they would grow alfalfa, but back in the day, in the minor times, they would raise cattle and crops for the miners at ghost towns like nearby La Plata, White Cloud City, Coppereid. Well, White Cloud City is Coppereid. They changed the name. And there's Hercules and Wonder. There's just a lot of ghost towns that are found here. Dixie Valley on the other side of the Stillwater Range. I think I was supposed to turn off there. But now today it's just a ranching community outside Fallon. You're really not going to see too much other than a lot of cottonwood trees, old historic ranches that have been around since mining times. And you have to understand, the one thing you're going to have to understand is that in Nevada, you had towns that are ranching communities dedicated to feeding the miners and supplying some of the local towns with livestock and crops, while you had the major towns were mining centers. So the two worked kind of hand in hand together. You had to feed the miners. They worked hard in the mines. They all brought their families. They were pioneers from across the country and sometimes overseas, right off the boat into Nevada, trying to make a living. But out here is a wildlife refuge. Thousands, millions of birds. They say a few million birds a year come here to roost. And it was drying up, but it's been a much less mild winter. There's more precipitation. Therefore, with the snow and rain we've had, the Carson Sink, once again, and the wetlands that are found in it, will be a sanctuary for the birds. You can see a whole flock of birds. These birds are all coming back from the south because it's warming up. It's supposed to be a near 60-degree day today. Now, while this town rose up or sprung up in around 1862, 1863, it also had a school, a restaurant, a hay barn, or some area where at the station where, you know, they would grow the alfalfa and then supply the hay to the horse wagons. But yeah, it had restaurants, saloons. It was more of a town than it is a ranching community today. I mean, downtown of Stillwater is really gone. There's only a few buildings and remnants of the past. There's an area up here you'll get to see, which is this is what's supposed to be downtown Stillwater. Of course, downtown no longer exists. People built homes over businesses. There's a few dilapidated structures, general stores, or important sites relevant to the history of the town. But I've been all backing through these streets, and there are some nice jewels. You can find some nice jewels back in here if you explore some of the side streets of Stillwater. But this is downtown Stillwater right here. You can see there's an abandoned structure. There's a lot of abandoned structures. A lot. And this town boasted a post office. It had hotels. Like I said, a school. Stores. It had a hay yard, an ice house. And Carson's Sink Station, which was a Pony Express station found here, was just made out of adobe. And then they had the overland route. And what drew settlers to areas, this was it had a plentiful supply of water. Now we're not going to focus on Stillwater. We've done an exploration of what we could out here. But what we're going to do is we're going to head to the Stillwater Mountains, which are pretty much about, I'd say about 10 miles ahead of us. And what you're going to see, and I'll zoom on in, that pointed peak you see, or triangular-like peak, it's called Joe Peak. To the right of it, you kind of see how it's flat right there where the pole just intersected. That's Tabletop Mountain, or Table Mountain as they call it. Peak next to it, that kind of goes downhill a little, Shady Mountain. And then to your right, straight ahead, is Lincoln, I believe. And then to your right, kind of, you can't really see it, behind the trees are Slaughter Peaks. And I may have gotten them, I may have gotten one or two off. They're all next to one another if you look on a map. The Stillwater Range was home to the Native Americans for thousands of years. If you go to the top of the range, there is some forest. There's the Toyabe National Forest on top. And so perfect areas for the Native Americans to hunt. You know, in the summer months they might brave the mountains a little more, and in the winter months they might come down here in the valley to the Carson Sink to hunt for birds or gather. The temperatures would definitely be a lot warmer than up at the top of those mountains. But we're on Stillwater Road, and this is all Stillwater. When I get to the end of the road, it splits off. I can go to the ghost town of La Plata and Mountain Wells. They're two little mining settlements. Or I can go to my left, and if you look below Job Peak, you go a few miles past Job Peak, following it, and below it's White Cloud City or Coppereid. So we're going to two ghost towns. These are major expeditions for us. And I'll tell you why, because every portal we put on our site has 40 places. So today we'll be doing the 40th place and portal number 25. And starting off portal number 26 with an awesome ghost town. Pretty cool. Nobody's out here. It's gonna turn to a dirt road soon. You can kind of see what it looks like out here. And if you, that was very pretty, but if you go on the other side of those mountains right there, there's Dixie Valley. And a few months ago I was in Dixie Valley, and you're not going to believe what I encountered. I found near some abandoned ranch. There's a bunch of abandoned ranches. It was a ranching community, sister community to Stillwater. But near a ranch, I found some odd tracks. They were monster tracks, something with 3 claws, dinosaur-like. And also, when I was out in Dixie Valley, right before sundown, I literally seen a scarecrow, a stuffed scarecrow, move 25 to 30 feet. It was on one side of this, they had these military vehicles, abandoned military vehicles, and it was on the one side, and I went to gather the gear, turned my back, and it was about 30 feet pinned to the fence. That thing was walking around, and I went up to it, it was just sponge and stuffing. I'm like, okay, that's pretty creepy. And I'm not the only one who witnessed it. All 3 of my other family members witnessed it too, and they pointed it out. They're like, Rick, the scarecrow just moved. So this is a really strange area, and I look forward to hopefully maybe finding some ghosts that haunt these abandoned boom towns. And I also hope we can discover maybe some strange tracks up in some of these canyons we're going. If not tracks, maybe we'll get a good UFO video or good UFO pictures. So desolate out here, you just don't know. Off to the Stillwater Mountains. We're heading to White Cloud City and then the ghost town of La Plata. On a road less taken. still heading down the road. It's gotten a little narrower, a little more desolate. You can see there's some cattle out here. That's the prime source, alfalfa and cattle, or prime industry in the Stillwater area. As we continue to head towards the mountains eastbound, because that's what this road will take us to, is almost the base of these mountains, then we'll start heading north along the bottom of them until we reach to our right about a 2-mile dirt road that'll take us into the ghost town of White Cloud City, also known as Coppereid. And there's upper Coppereid and lower. Obviously the upper is the mining and industrial section where there was mills, and the lower section would be where the post office and businesses and homes were. Miners would live below town, trek their way up a mile or two up the canyon via horse or ox wagon to work in the mines. It's just the way it was back in the day. You can see here, this looks like the old, yeah, this is the old schoolhouse in Stillwater, I believe. Let's see if I can get a better video without that. There we go. A lot of historic gems back in here. It might be the middle of nowhere, but these schools and churches and old historic sites and cabins existed over 100 years ago, and people lived here, and now most of these places are abandoned and forgotten, and it's our job to kind of preserve them and keep people out there traveling and exploring places like these so that they last another 100, 200, 300 years for generations to come.
Yeah. What is that? Oh, it's hot springs. It's hot springs.
Let me go look real quick. No, it's just the heat. It's 38 and the water's warm. It's creating steam. Water's warmer than what it is outside. Or the opposite way. Could go either way, right? You know, we're not just a paranormal group, but we're an urban exploration group. And so, you know, we like to see what these places look like outside and inside. Oh yeah, nice little homestead. And this probably goes with Stillwater. However, you know, we'll integrate it into our ghost town update, since, I mean, we're basically in the edge of the wilderness here and just about out of Stillwater. A lot of, oh yeah, definitely a lot of rat defecation. Try not to breathe. Oh man, this is nasty. Ladies? Haha. Well, the old schoolhouse is next door. I'm wondering if this was like teachers, faculty, ladies, men, had a little kitchen. Looks like whoever lives down here was here. I had to go out the back window because even though this doesn't sit on their property, you know, people protect these sites and watch them well, and they may think that my intent here is not pure, but it is. You know, I just want to show you what kind of an old teacher's faculty or ranching cabin might look like out here in the Stillwater Mountains, and this would be it. Pikes Peak Express and the Central Overland Station were very mainstream. I was wrong. This is downtown Stillwater, or what's left of downtown. Like I said, I've done some of these cabins in abandoned places, so that building I just did was part of Stillwater. Maybe I didn't see it last time. I could have sworn I've already explored it once. But it's a pretty cool little cabin. It gives you an idea of what the cabins or homes look like up here. These used to be, some of these buildings were businesses back here. Some of these places were shops. And they date back, there's a couple buildings that date back to the early 1900s, which are in deplorable condition, but still part of the history of the area of Stillwater. In 1868, Stillwater retained a county seat for Churchill County. What happened was, once Fallon came to be, and Fallon's a pretty big city in central northern Nevada, it kind of consumed everything. Because Fallon had the train coming through, they could export goods, import goods. Railroad didn't come through these little towns. And when the mining was depleted and there was no railroad, they either died or they transformed into these ranching communities you see here. So you have to understand that a lot of towns like Stillwater, once they lost the county seat and their post office and everything else, they basically became semi-ghost towns or abandoned. And as you can see, I mean, that's supposed to be a creek. That's dry. That's dry. So you start off our morning with an abandoned place. Got Joe Peak right here. And now that we're past all the ranches, we're going to hit nothing but wilderness. There's multiple waterways, canals, ponds, wetlands, lakes. It's a wildlife refuge. We've been hiking back in here. There's a couple hiking trails and such in these wetlands, but everything seems to be dry. I'm taking it they didn't get a very wet winter out this way. It is northern Nevada, it is desert, and eventually all the wetlands and lakes are going to disappear. I've seen them. But now we have nothing up ahead but mountains, as you can see. And eventually dirt road. There's not going to be any more ranches or businesses. Actually, you're about to hit the dirt road now. It's going to be a trek up there. You got about 20 miles down a dirt road. They lost the county seat, I believe, in the early 1900s, maybe 1904. And that's why Stillwater had died out. You can see Stillwater National Wildlife Refuge. They have pelicans and bald eagles, waterfowl, geese, which migrate here. Stillwater marshland. But this is the real deal. Now we're heading towards the mountains. This is a dirt road. It'll keep heading east. Eventually it'll veer to the left or north, and then follow the mountains. And then there's dirt roads that go up in all the canyons, and a lot of these canyons have mill remnants, mines, things of that sort, little mining camps and ghost towns, and that's where we're heading. It's definitely beautiful country here, and we're going to be we're going to be hiking up in the Stillwater Range and exploring. Roads aren't too bad back here. A lot of accessible ghost towns. If you take this back way along the mountains, you can hit the old mining town of Lovelock. It's a pretty good sized town today. The mining's long gone. Actually, about 20-30 miles south of this ghost town, if you continue to follow those mountains around past the Carson Sink, you'll hit the cave of the red-haired giants. These red-haired giants were as tall as 11 to 12 feet tall. They ate the natives. They were here 10,000 or more years ago. When the natives arrived, they were trying to coexist in peace with these creatures, and they were stealing the men and women and bringing them back to the cave and basically sucking the marrow out of their bones, using them as a food subsistence, because food out here is kind of, it's hard to find food. The natives knew how to hunt for birds and deer, but I don't think these creatures, these giants, were that sophisticated. I think that they seen the encroachment of other men moving in on their territory and were like, we'll just eat these people. We'll just dine on them. They found evidence that marrow was sucked out of the bone. They found skulls. They found bones. And the Native Americans are like, it's a tribe of ours. But really, what it comes down to is the Native Americans who claimed the bones They're the ones that blocked the entrance with sagebrush. Then they lit it on fire, smoked and killed them all. Anyone that ran, any giant that ran out, they put arrows in, while the other ones died of suffocation or smoke inhalation. And so if the red-haired giants are in this valley between these two mountains around the other end, then these giants probably were very native to this whole Carson Sink area. We're in the Carson Sink. And the giants were probably found up all through the Stillwater range, more than likely. And there's probably some hidden caves with bones of other giants. Giants were real mainstream in Nevada. There's a lot of stories and legends and even some evidence. And so we're heading to an unknown country. I mean, like I said, I've found weird tracks. There's giant skeletons that have been found out here, UFOs. A lot of these mines and ghost towns along this range are haunted. I had the Scarecrow incident. Just a lot of paranormal and X-Files shit going on here. It's vast. We're in an expanse. You got the Truckee Mountains over here. You can barely see them. You'll see them better from when I get up to White Cloud and it looks down across the expanse. And then it's really, we're going to get some really good video and pictures of Lord Rick. We're a long ways from home. The ghost town of La Plata is up in La Plata Canyon. I assume that this canyon's up in here. You can kind of see that that's a canyon. This is a canyon. Anything that... Any pass that goes between these mountain ranges. Here's another canyon. You can see a mountain, two series of ridges between each other. There's a canyon down in there, and that's where a lot of mining towns were built, is in those canyons, because a lot of canyons had springs, creeks, and of course definitely rich in minerals, and where you were able to mine in the canyon and get gold, silver, and copper. There's just nothing out here. There's a lot of snow-covered peaks still. We're in February. It's gorgeous country, but like I say, there is nothing out here. Nothing. Do you feel small now, folks? Look at that, a lone tree in the middle of a vast expanse with snow-capped peaks off in the distance. There's more mountains in the state of Nevada than the lower 48. That's truth. And they are everywhere you look. There's just thousands of peaks. And there are some nice hidden canyons and gems up in these ranges if you're willing to explore off-road and find them. There's more to Nevada than just desert. This is the Carson Desert. That's what they call it, kind of. There's the 40-mile desert. There's multiple deserts in Nevada. However, some areas are wetlands, marshlands, there's forest. Nevada's a mix of terrain and ecosystems, believe it or not. And the mountains just give you that sense that you're in a world within a world. Because right now you see ripples of brown, but you go up there in those canyons, there's trees and grass and creeks. It's a different world up in these mountains than it is in the expanse. The expanse is brown. In the spring, all this is going to be bright green. But there's supposed to be a massive lake to my left. It's dried up. You don't see it. You can see way off in the distance there's this brown sandy area. That's where, and some salt beds. Or salt, oh, I see some water off. But very little. It's very shallow. It's no longer this big lake that runs for a couple miles. It's just a small little pond with erratic water and pools where fish, frogs, and birds are barely staying alive because they don't have enough water. They gotta, all of them collaborate in a small pool. But you can see the water. I'll show you real quick. It's kind of hard to see, but I'll zoom in. There is a little bit of a lake and wetlands, but not much. Should be a lot more larger than this. It kind of just ends right there. What a shame. Now this is where the road starts to curve to the left or north. Never did see the sign for La Plata, but that's okay. I can just find it on my GPS, La Plata Canyon, and then we can just locate the town that way. Joe Peak has snow. It's one of the higher peaks, one of the highest in the Stillwater range.
Never mind that noise coming from the trunk.
So now we're getting ready to head north. Actually, here's a sign. I believe this is the sign for the ghost town of La Plata, which will hit second. But you guys can see there's nothing out here. However, the Native Americans hunted and gathered for thousands of years. The Carson Sink has back in the day in the 1800s. This is a lot of marshland. It's just been slowly drying out due to global warming. But keep in mind, it's still these canals and the Carson River that traverses Stillwater, and all the canals that branch off of it and wetlands provide today the means for farming and cattle ranching. And it thrives, not as much as it used to, because like I say, these canals that were diverted are drying up. But you can see right here, here's the look, Mountain Wells, La Plata 13. And we're going to take this road. I'll show you guys. We're not going to take it yet. I want to take it on my way back because I want to hit White Cloud City and Coppereid this morning. That way we're not too much in the sun when it warms up today, because it's supposed to get pretty warm, and it does get warm out here. Even in the some winter days, you can almost wear shorts. It gets that hot. But this is the road to La Plata. This is La Plata Canyon. You hit the mining or ranching settlement of Mountain Wells, and eventually you end up in La Plata, which has ruins of a courthouse. And you can see the split. One heads to the Stillwater Range. One goes up in the Stillwater Range, the southern portion of it, through a canyon. This is just a split in the road. Which way to go? Well, both ways will take you to historic sites. You decide. The more you head in, folks, the more barren it gets. And I really only film these videos for you guys, because you guys tell me you like when I do entire movies and film my journey, what it looks like when we off-road and hike it on foot. So, you know, we try to put things in perspective. We could show you what's involved with these expeditions, preservation projects, and paranormal investigations. A lot goes into it. This is not like TV. We may show you an hour of film, but keep in mind, we're going 12 hours throughout the whole day. We just keep not going to film for 12 hours because you guys will get kind of boring. If maybe not, you might want to watch a cam, follow me around and see the adventure. But I try to highlight the most important parts of the trip, and this would be it. The road heading up into the Stillwater Mountains. So anything that I feel is relevant, I try to film, or if it's something that I think you'll enjoy. Other times I do longer films so you get to see more of an area. And this is an area I've been continuously on and off filming because I want people to kind of get an idea. It is wetter out here than most parts of Nevada, but there's nothing really out here, as you can see. A lot of abandoned corrals and farms. I mean, even the windmill on here isn't even intact. There's no windmill on top. Used to be. As you can see, we're almost at the base of the mountains. How can you go wrong? It's so desolate, everybody out here. Right? Everybody, it's so desolate where we're at. And that's what I enjoy, the serenity, the peace and quiet, the nature. I've seen all kinds of birds just driving on in. There's no houses, there's no ranches, there's no humans, there's nobody driving on this road. There's nobody to hear you scream if a UFO landed and said, hey, I want to anal probe you. That's the truth. But you can see there's nothing up here. But if you look, I can tell you where the ghost town of White Cloud City or Coppereid is. See that real pointy peak right there? There's a canyon before that that goes up into the Stillwater. That is where Coppereid is. And there was a sign that pointed through a pass up here, Dixie Valley. And Dixie Valley was bought by the military to do bombing practices, training squads, and test some of their dud bombs on helicopters and jets. And there's tanks and abandoned vehicles, but there's also a cemetery and some abandoned ranches that I've investigated. And in Nevada, between each mountain range, you have vast expanses, and within the canyons and expanses, you have your boom towns and mining camps, ghost towns, things of that sort. And you know, you'll hit one canyon or valley after another. I mean, there's a canyon straight ahead to the right that goes up in the Stillwater. If you go over the Stillwater Mountains, you have Dixie Valley. If you go over the Truckee Mountains there, you have Pyramid Lake and the Fernley Sink and the Humboldt Sink off this direction. All these different sinks. This is the Carson Sink.
Are we being followed?
But each river formed a sink. And before they were rivers, they were part of ancient sea Lahontan, which had these 50-foot creatures. They looked like whales, but they had these giant teeth for eating fish. 50 feet, could swallow a manhole the size of a school bus. Of course, they believed that these creatures would have been no threat to humans if they still lived today. But, you know, prehistoric sharks and whales in these ancient seas. We find their bones up on peaks. That's how we know Lake Lahontan was, you know, exposed some of these peaks, just the tops of them, as islands back in the day. And kind of that's what the red-haired giants, about 30 miles north of here, they lived kind of on a peak in a cave, and they had beachfront property. And when the water receded, they found bones also at the bottom of the sink. Probably one of the giants was fishing. They had boats, canoes, fell out, maybe drowned. Bones rested at the bottom until the sea dried out, and men like me, explorers like me, made the discovery. Would make a discovery. It's what it's about. I'm a discoverer. I like to discover things for the first time, even if they're UFOs. Want to know where they come from. Why are they here? How do they fly? You know, everything's science, what we do. Same with ghosts and EVPs. We're almost to White Cloud City. About 15 miles, 15, 17 miles north of here. Wow. This is amazing. You can see everyone. It's a free range here. Yes, the cattle roam freely. It's creepy when they look at you. That's a big boy. Actually, it's not a boy at all.
No, it's not.
There's no horns. It's not a bull, but she's a good sized head of cattle. Wow. That's one of the biggest heads of cattle I've seen in a long time out in a region like, usually they're pretty small and skinny. That's why I always put them as a nature section of our site, because they do roam freely on the range. And I mean, they're a part of nature. They're part of the ecosystem here. But this is the Carson Sink. If you look, because I'll get it on video now, kind of looks like a vast sandy desert. Right here, that's the Carson Sink. Ancient seabed. This is what drew settlers in the area. This is what began for the Pony Express in this region, was due to the Carson Sink, because they had accessibility to water. Anywhere where there were springs, creeks, rivers, boom towns, overland, and Pony Express stations were built. So without water, you would die. Extreme summers, extreme winters. And you wonder why there's so many UFOs and cattle mutilations out here. The 2 and 2 probably go hand in hand. There's nothing to stop an alien from coming down even in broad daylight, as secluded as it is, and abducting a cow for whatever reasons they may have. Who knows? We're on the road to White Cloud City, aka Coppereid. About 14 more miles. Then about a 2-mile hike in and another 1.5 miles up the canyon. So we're getting ready for some off-roading, some backpacking, and a good time in White Cloud City and a greater time in La Plata. 2 ghost towns northeast of Fallon, Nevada. Cattle crossing. They're huge. I get out and get their picture. Look at them all staring at me. Creepy. This one also. Bertha's looking at me. Yeah, we're definitely out in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. That looks like a dog, dude. Is that a dog or a calf running out there? I think it's it. It looks like a dog, but I think it's just a black calf. They also like to run and play too. They're calves. It crossed the road up here, and it's just, you know, it's a half-mile away. I can't see that good. I looked in my zoom, but I got the sun gleaming down.
Look like a dog.
We'll see. It might be a yeah, it might be a herding dog.
Yeah, that dogs. See them? They're running really fast. See? That's definitely a dog, Dad. No, it's a calf. Dang, they're hella fast.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know.
That's good that there's calves. Without them, all the cattle would die out. You find cattle bones in this area all the time. Not all the cattle survive on the range. Look at that calf running. He doesn't like the sound of the Jeep. Still a lot of snow on the Stillwater Mountains. There are ranges that reach a height of 12,000 feet near Austin, or about 100 miles from here. The Tayabe Humboldt Range, and I'm telling you, 12,000 foot mountains easily have 3-4 feet of snow at the peak, possibly even more. This is just a dusting compared to other peaks in the region. Of course, don't get me wrong, Joe Peak probably has about 3 feet of snow. It's completely covered. If you look, there's Joe Peak, or Job Peak. Yeah, it's covered. You can't even see the ridge. Other than that, the rest of the range is kind of dusted. Less than an inch of snow. We had a much more extreme winter this year, so a lot of peaks have more snow on them than usual, which is good. We went through a 3-4 year drought. We need this. We really do. So do the cattle. Somewhere out here is White Cloud City. It's kind of where the mountains kind of protrude to the left a little, straight in front of the road. Right before you go around that range, nestled back in here is White Cloud. You can see there's an old corral with a windmill out here. Early signs of pioneer ranching, perhaps. Could be made, it might be an older ranch which was renovated, revitalized, and that might be the corral for rounding up the cattle that are out here. Who knows? This hill, I believe, is called Silver Hill or Silver Hills. It was a mining district of White Cloud City. And I could be wrong, but I know Silver Hill's up in here right before you get to the ghost town. And the ghost town is up in this area right here, up in White Cloud Canyon, which we'll be going up into soon. At the mouth of the canyon's the town site, and then up in the canyon's the mining district itself, where the mines and machinery and mill sites are. Of course, there's a story that this town never had a mill, but some of the miners or prospectors back in the day begged, and old timers in the area begged to differ. You decide. We'll talk about it more when I'm here. It had a smelter, therefore it had to have a mill. Some of these towns were not very large, but they still had a little bit of everything. You know, you had your saloon, your church, your general store, sometimes your school, miner cabins, couple other businesses, blacksmith, couple ranches, couple mines. And that's how these people made their living out here in the Wild West. There was no amenities. Life was kind of difficult out here, but people did what they had to do. They'd hunt in the mountains. They'd grow crops. Use the wetlands to grow crops. Mine for a living. Ranch also. And now nothing remains out here. It's a desolate, empty valley, or what is known as the Carson Sink, which you can see. You can see a little better now that I'm over here. Look at that. There's nothing out there growing. Flat desert. An old seabed is what that is. We're almost there, folks. Actually, the ghost town is up near, you see that little hill and black pointy rocks and then that pointy peak? That's White Cloud Canyon up there, and that's where the ghost town is. It's at the mouth of that canyon, and then you just go up into the mountains if you want to explore the district. We'll try to explore what we can. It's not a huge ghost town, but it's a nice day out. It's a nice day to be with the family. Maybe toss the pigskin football around a little. Do some target practicing, some metal detecting. Cover some mines, some history, and move on to La Plata. Check out their mill at La Plata and their old courthouse, and go get some Thai food, man, in Fallon. That's how you do it. If you're going to live the Wild West, you need to experience the adventure, the paranormal, good eats, good beer, good brew, in other words. Just explore the scene, the culture, be a part of it. Enjoy the scenery, the off-roading, the adventure, and you know, that's how we do it in the Wild West. We spend all day adventuring. We almost die a few times, and we settle down with a nice ale at a saloon. Put a couple dollars in a slot machine, win a jackpot, go home with a smile on her face. A lot of volcanic peaks in this area that form the Stillwater Range, and that's one of them straight ahead. Looks like it blew half of the side off when it erupted, leaving behind that rigid rock. Just a giant cliff, like it just blew, bam. Must have been an explosive volcano. You won't want to be within 5-10 miles of this volcano, any of these volcanoes here. This area was hot, and some of the springs still are. It still is a little hot under here, especially under Dixie Valley. You can see salt within the soil. The salt's caused from ancient Lake Lahontan, and you can kind of see it. Just looks like a white powder. You can no longer see it, but you did see it briefly. Just a white powder mixed in with the soil. That's salt. Like I said, it used to be a seabed here. This was all underwater. Imagine a sea from peak to peak. Wow, look at that. Yeah, we're almost friggin' in our ghost town. I think it's just around the corner down the road. It's in that canyon, I'm thinking, on the other side. Wow. Yeah, I think I see another canyon up here ahead a few miles. That's probably it. In between those two, where the mountains crisscross, or these peaks, where it's real wide, and it goes uphill, but it's a wide open area where the town sits, and then when you go up in the canyon, it narrows, and it takes you to the mining district. So I'm thinking that's it. The other place looked a little too narrow, the canyon. This is much wider, bigger canyon. There's more salt. Oh yeah, ancient seabed. We have some cattle up ahead, and they can sense me coming. They're smart. They don't really like humans much. No, this is horses, dude.
Oh.
Wild mustangs, dude.
You can see the white.
If there are any abandoned summer camps around here.
They're scared, so some of them are already taking off, but I'll try to see if I can get a couple more pictures. It's what I live for. When you can toke one in the Wild West and drive past a bunch of wild horses,
Yep.
That's the real deal.
Right.
And they're clear out of the road so we can go.
Yeah.
Don't want to spook them too much. They do get spooked quite easy.
Yeah.
There's some are used to people, and others they're like who the hell are you? Wild Mustangs out by White Cloud City. Watch, they're all gonna spook when I get out, because they don't like vehicles. People hit them all the time and they know vehicles are dangerous. Oh, the baby.
Oh, it's so cute.
Pretty baby. Pretty little pony. Go real slow. Don't want to spook them. Oh, there they go. Hopefully they won't be in the mood to charge me. They have youngins. This little treat before we head into the ghost town. They're sticking close together. They're scared. But they let me film and photograph them for quite briefly, but enough to get a few pictures and video for everyone who enjoys wild horses and the Wild West, or the Nevada frontier, I should say. I'm thinking I'm really close to the ghost town. I see a lot of debris scattered out here. Even see a mine way up on the hill. It looks like up here was the mining district. Oh yeah. We're really in the middle of nowhere. And based on all these rusty cans and pieces of metal, I'm willing to say this is probably part of the ghost town site. At least the beginning of it. Bean cans from miners, glass scattered everywhere. Yeah, you can tell something was up here. It's not a cross either. My son said, oh, it's a cross. No. But there is some clay pots and things out here. There's definitely a homestead or some homes. Or this is the beginning of the town site, which started here and worked its way up to the mouth of the canyon. I believe there's a road that goes out there. We'll be able to get a closer look. It's trial and error, ladies and gentlemen. But one of these roads will take us to the ghost town. We'll check it out up here. We should be able to see some foundations, or about a mile or two in. And then you park and you hike up the canyon because the road was washed out in the canyon due to flash flooding. Now I see a lot of debris. There's cans, there's pieces of wood. Look at that.
That's a rock.
That's a rock, but there are pieces of cans out in the desert. This is probably the town site. It was spread out in this little area below the range. What we should do is we should come across, there should be about 5 to 6 stone ruins coming up. And they should be up here before you get into the canyon. If they're not, then it means we've taken the wrong road. So we'll have to see, and it's a trial and error type of thing. It's just how ghost towns are. The GPS don't work, your phone don't work out here. There's a million unpaved, unmarked roads and canyons. Just takes one wrong turn. But this is the best road going to the right. So I'm assuming this is the road into the canyon and the ghost town. We should have a foundation on each side of the road that's huge. They're huge. A smelter foundation, and then there's another one. And I'm assuming we'll see them, if they're here, we'll see them when we get closer in. If not, we'll have to try a different way. And it might be back on that other row where I seen a bunch of debris in the desert. But they're back here. I'm not seeing nothing so far, but I'll keep looking.
Proceed to highlighted road.
You see I see something reflecting in the entrance of the canyon, but that's not, there's no foundations, which means this is not the town site. Try looking up here. Say it's a couple miles down the road. You may not see them from the road. Wait. Is that a foundation? No. See to your right? Just a pile of... Is that a foundation or no? See it?
No, it looks like a bunch of rocks to me. Just like all this. It's all just rocky.
Yeah, but look how they're all piled up. Huh. Wow. I mean, the town sits back by the mountains. It's not, I mean, part of it's in the mountains, but part of it is below the canyon. So we'll see at the mouth of the canyon up here what's in store for us. It's just dirt. Just groovy dirt. Little rough riding, but not too bad. I'm pretty sure if there may not be no town down this road, but this is probably an old mining road. I still see cans and stuff, so I mean there had to be miners back here, even if there is nothing. But I'm not seeing the foundation, so I'm thinking about taking the other road. But we got to make sure there's nothing up here before we do. Because then if you don't, folks, then you might miss out on the town completely. Well, out of piles of rocks. Native stone that the foundations were made out of. Should be an abandoned post office up here too. Yeah, I'm thinking there's nothing back here. I'm gonna turn around up here. Come on. Hold the handle. We're off-roading. We're not on a paved road. Let's see what's up here. It's pretty scenery. I get a good view up here, but I don't think I see any foundations. The hell is this up here? Do you see this?
Yeah.
What?
It's a stone road.
It's a wash, is what it is.
Yep.
There's like tons of stones.
And it's the end of the line, too. It's the Carson, guys, there's a Carson Sink ahead of us. You see this? Ancient seabed Carson Sink. Can't go wrong with the view, at least. But this is a portion of the Carson Desert. It's the terminus of the Carson River. And the sink is currently fed by drainage canals of the Truckee-Carson Irrigation District, for example, through Stillwater. And it's a deep portion of the Pleistocene water body of Lake Lahontan, as I was telling you earlier. A dry lake bed, basically. I mean, there is water that trickles, but not much. We didn't find a ghost town up here, so we're going to go back and make a turn down that road. But during the gold rush, the Carson Trail crossed the Lahontan Basin, and it included a section through the 40-mile desert to the first drinkable water on the Carson River. And of course, like I said, the Carson Station was built here, which was a Pony Express station. 1984, natural dike between the Carson Sink and Humboldt Sink were breached by the Nevada Department of Transportation, increased transportation to prevent Interstate 80 in the town of Lovelock from flooding due to unusually heavy snowfall back in '87. Is that a wash, or is that a way up into the mountains? Like a road. Look at that, guys. And you get a good view of the Carson Sink. Like I said, ancient seabed right there. And this is one of the best views from here, unless you want to climb the peaks. But without having to climb the peaks, you just go a couple hundred feet up on the foothills of the mountains and you can see the entire sink for miles. You can see over 50 miles of it probably, of the Great Basin. Yeah, this road's a little rugged. Not liking it.
To be honest, this doesn't really look like a road.
Yeah.
Looks like he just climbed up the mountain.
I did climb up the mountain, but now we're gonna get back on the road. I just want to look around. This is not the ghost town. I think it's in front of the plateau, because according to my maps I studied, it's in front of the plateau, like nestled back in there. It's just that the road back there was, you know, so-so. There was some fencing and debris back there. That's probably it. But there's debris back along this road here too. So this road I thought might take us, but this is just probably another mining district. Nobody probably lived here. They probably just mined along the base of the mountains here and went up in the canyons looking for gold and silver. Gold, silver, and copper. It's a cream of the crop here.
Can you look for a charger?
Can I look for a charger?
Yes.
I gave you a charger already.
Yeah, no, that doesn't work for my camera.
For your phone it does?
Yeah, phone. It's for my camera there.
Holy shit, this is rough. If I can fall, get stuck in that fucking groove, you're fucked. That's bad. Not the best road. Easy as pie. I could do this in my sleep. I don't even have to think twice about it when I'm back in areas like this. All the difference when you have a decent vehicle rather than like a car, your mom's car. Or like your beat up Subaru. Alright, back on the road to find White Cloud City. Into the Carson Sink. See, the road gets real good once you're down at the bottom of the mountains. But when you're going up the mountain, they get a lot of flash flooding and shit back here, so it gets really bad. I think that triangular mountain with the cliffs is called Buena Hills, but that don't look like no hill to me. That's a friggin' volcanic peak. Alright, we'll try over near this plateau up here. I know it's up here. Just can't see the shit from the road. Keep your fingers crossed. Because if this is it, you should see over, as you get to the end of the road, some foundations. But it's a needle in a haystack. You know what I'm saying? This is a needle in a haystack. There's a lot of canyons, a lot of roads. Most of them are mining districts around here. And there was only the town. Then you had different canyons, had different mining districts. So, but it looks like the town may have sat back at the mouth of the canyon. So this could be it up here. Now, I could be wrong, but this is White Cloud Canyon's lined up with that pond, and the pond's right behind us. So it's gotta be, we gotta be within a couple miles of it. Stillwater Mountains. Should be on each side of the road, there should be foundations too. Oh yeah, I see. The only good thing about coming back here is I can stand on this hill here up here and look around and see if I can spot it. Because the only way to see this is to get a better view or closer up. It's the only way to see this place. It's not very big. Like I said, Google Earth has the foundation, so it should be pretty visible. Buddy's been to this ghost town.
I didn't know I was kidding.
Huh? Oh.
I was kidding. There's somebody that's been there.
Well, no, because every site's the same. You know, every site says the same thing. Take the road to a right, go into... Try to go to White Cloud Canyon. The town's at the base of the canyon and up in the canyon, but... Yeah. But see, up here, we can park. It's just rocky.
I know it's bad for the tires. Causes them to separate.
I can always buy a new tire. I'm not cheap. Oh, hold on, I think I see something. Appears to be a mine up here. You can tell this area has been mined. This may be White Cloud City. We're at least in the... We're in the vicinity of it. But I still don't see foundations or anything back here. Then again, you know, may have to just get down to the mouth of the canyon, which we're at, and do some exploring the old-fashioned way. You're not going to always see these places. It doesn't matter how you look at it. You can't always see these places by driving around. You got to get up, excuse me, you got to walk around and check out these places. So, it's hard to say. Obviously, whatever's back here is relevant, whether it's a mine or a back road in the Dixie Valley. It's relevant. Oh, wow. Oh yeah. Wow. Sometimes you gotta trek across the desert. You definitely don't do this in rattlesnake season. But right now, February, good time of year. Good time of year. I'm not seeing this ghost town. GPS's, cell phones, all that don't work. And you have all these canyons. Each canyon takes you down a mining district or somewhere. But definitely not taking me to White Cloud. May have to go further back up the road. I do see a concrete foundation out there. That might be it. But I have to look. Because you just don't know. Stone foundations don't look very visible when you're sitting in the desert. It all looks the same. Looks like it's part of the natural landscape. And it turns out that's some miner's cabin, you know? Wow. Go take a look down here. Nothing ever comes to you easy. That's the truth. When you do this kind of work, it doesn't come easy. And being that I have so many medical problems, back, neck, fibromyalgia, chronic pain, a whole series of other things, you know, it doesn't take much for me to burn out real quick. Then I gotta drink, smoke, take my meds, do what I gotta do to try to sustain myself a little while longer on a trip like this. Why lie? You know, most people don't struggle with little things, and I do sometimes, because it's very difficult to traverse these canyons and mountains. It's very rough terrain. I see something out there. Carson sink. Descriptions fit this place. Now maybe I gotta hike further in, but according to my calculations, it's less than 2 miles from the road, and I'm already almost 2 miles back, so this is definitely not the town. Although mining has been done here, as you can see. I've read that flash floods and so forth washed out the roads, and you can see this is washed out. But then again, so is most of the roads that go through the canyons up here. So you can't say this is White Cloud Canyon or the town site of White Cloud City, but we're close. One of these roads will lead us in. Tammy, she freaks out. She has PTSD from off-roading with me, so she hates any roads I take like this. So it's like, oh, turn around, don't go any further, we're gonna tip. So it's also something I gotta battle with people who ride with me. They're scared, and they don't realize that this is part of the outdoor experience. Wow, not a mine, just a little crevice in the rocks. Still doesn't hurt to look for tracks or anything strange in areas like these. Oh yeah, well, we've definitely explored what we could explore. Let's try going down another road or another canyon and another canyon to find this ghost. No mines. It's a bunch of crevices in the rocks. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we've just pulled up on White Cloud Canyon. We found it thanks to our, it's called Nevada Ghost Towns and Desert Atlas by Stan Power, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but it's P-A-H-E-R, and he's got a little map coming out to this place. And there are mining claims for sale, and the guy told me not much remains. Maybe some people have bought up the land and decided to take some of the stone ruins down, but there's remains of a post office, a smelter, and they're made out of stone. They're not your typical wood or wood post office. These are made out of native volcanic rock. But this is White Cloud Canyon. You can see it's a massive canyon straight ahead. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna see what we can find of the town. If there's nothing left of the town, we'll just get our backpacks and hike up in the canyon a little. There's bighorn sheep out here, a lot of eagles, a lot of different birds, deer, sometimes elk, I believe, up higher in the mountains. There are forests in the canyon. I've read some stories about people who hike, and they said there's a creek and some swampy or marshland up in the canyon. And I mean, it's a pretty canyon, and it's well worth hiking up into or driving. But we should see, coming up, at least 3 or 4 foundations on each side of the road. And if nothing remains and we get to the canyon, then I guess we'll have to mark it that nothing's left of the town. But I do see something over to the right further out, so maybe that's part of the town. But there should be like I said, 5 or 6 structures or foundations. And if there isn't, then it really kind of is disheartening. I got another ghost town, but it's kind of disheartening to put on our site and disparaging, knowing that nothing might remain. And we came out here for what? You know, we came out here for the nature and the scenery, but we also came out here for the history. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm not seeing anything out here. And the ghost town doesn't sit in the canyon. It sits out in the desert, in the flat area. And then when you get in the canyon, there's the upper part of town. But I'm not seeing nothing. Maybe that guy was telling the truth that nothing's out here. Because he said nothing's here. But within a year or two, people got fresh pictures of the foundations. So my guess would be is that they probably sold the land and someone came in, oh, let me use these volcanic rocks to make walls around my home. I got an extensive history I've written down on this town. It actually has a pretty good connection to Dixie Valley, Unionville, where Mark Twain spent about 1.5 years prospecting. It's a pretty historic town. So if somebody tore it up, even though it wasn't large, I mean, it had an old post office. So for somebody to come in here and be like, oh, I'm tearing it up. I think I see a foundation right now at the mouth of the canyon. So I think I see it straight ahead. So I think we're on the right track. But I don't know how far we'll be able to drive up the canyon. We probably have to grab our packs and hike in. It's just a fact of life. You got to use your legs. If you're lazy and don't use your legs, and you want to drive and be lazy, you could end up getting stuck or a flat tire. Unless you can absolutely know you can take it slow and do it, do it. But if you can't, my recommendation is enjoy the bighorn sheep, grab your water, grab your backpack. This time of year, there's no snakes, and get up in the canyon and just search for remnants of the past. Foundations, mining equipment, mines, whatever you want. But this is White Cloud Canyon, and the ghost town should be back here. I do see a stone wall, and that might be all that's left of the town. Actually, I see 2 foundations. Yep, there it is, to the left and the right. You cannot see that from the road. There's a bunch of walls. So what we're gonna do, ladies and gentlemen, is we're gonna park here. I'm gonna grab my camera, my tripod, my EMF, and my EVP, and we're gonna go ahead and explore what's left. And then I'm gonna go ahead and see if we can't drive the canyon, we'll go ahead and hike the mile up the canyon on foot. It just depends on how bad the road continues to get. This is okay. It's not as bad as the other roads I took. The other ones had sharp rocks, washed out road. At least here you can kind of get enough back to check out the town. And that's all I care about, is I can get back by the town, I can park, and then we can go ahead and do some hiking today and try to see some Nevada nature. Oh yeah, there's the foundations. There's 1, 2, 3, I see about 4 so far. We're in White Cloud City, ladies and gentlemen. This is Lord Rick. Check out our site, www.paranormalghostsociety.org. We're about to hit an awesome ghost town, which finishes off Portal 25. Hell, it might be Portal 26. I don't know. I've done a million investigations. But we're going to park up here before we go anywhere. I'll park up at the foundations here. And then from there, we'll explore the town. And then we'll try to, I don't know how far we're going to make my way in the canyon. May only be able to get about a half mile and park it. And we're going to go looking for some nature and wildlife. And check out Lower Coppereid, Upper Coppereid. There we go. Coppereid, a.k.a. White Cloud City.
Big rock.
What? Did I just hit a rock?
Yes. Look the other way.
Alright. Nice. There's a foundation there, too. Alright, folks, we're here.